How are we doing?
We're back again.
We're back again.
We've gone forward in time.
We had some technical difficulties there.
Yeah.
I'm Benny Torres.
I'm Elliot Cannon.
Chris Collins.
And this is the Dungeon Defenders 2 Devstream.
Right.
What you saw there was Pandinator's TT Challenge winning performance. He beat Lightfoot Forest. We got another challenge coming up that we'll talk about a little bit later. But right now, we are talking about the Dark Altar update.
Cool.
So we released a trailer that you may or may not have seen depending on the technical difficulties. And Eric right now is playing the map. So we got some questions about this update, about the
Sure.
Dark Altar. Tell us what the map's all about.
Oh yeah, well this is an original one we've been doing this year, taking the DD1 maps and taking the BSP and then dressing them up with new themes. And Steve Collins has been designing brand new incursions around these things, so we can kind of go crazy and try different experiments. This one here, they completely redid this. This used to be like a crumbled bulwark is the name of the map you may have seen in some of the voting. We used this old Dark Assassin character, brought him in as an enemy, and we decided to theme the whole map around them and make the whole incursion oriented around them as well. So that's the basic idea behind the map itself, where it came from. Some people recognize the character, some people may recognize the layout of the map. It's a 2-core map now, but the incursion's very, very different. If you read the dev blog earlier this week, I kind of gave some guys an insider sneak peek wall of text guide to how to do it and how funny it is to work on it. And it's actually very hard and very fun, so it should be really cool to see how people play it and try it out.
And I'm going to ask you some questions about that.
Sure.
I'm curious to walk a little bit all the way back just to give a sense for how this works. You know, we get the influence vote in. It says we're going Crumble Bulwark. So what happens? The Diaz brothers go in, and I'm just curious.
Okay. So what will happen is we'll dig up the old BSP, which is just, if you've done any modding in Unreal before, everything's built in binary space partition, brushes, and stuff like that. So we'll dig up the old stuff, and we'll rebuild everything from scratch exactly to scale. That just is like the shell. And then from that you say, this could be a jungle map, a pirate map, a Wild West map, and that's why you've seen some of those other cool maps. Those maps don't look anything like that. The original version of those maps in DD1 were completely different. We intentionally want to take these things and make them more up-to-date, cooler new themes, but we know those layouts are classic, and the layouts are just so fun and classic. We don't want to change the layout. We want to dress it up with a new theme that's real fun, and we can tie characters into it. So it's all about theming. So from that early phase, with the art guys here and some concept sketches and some conversations and gameplay ideas from Steve and other people, the Diaz brothers will just go to town. These two guys are brothers that live in Spain. Every time there's a devlog, you should always check it because they always give sneak previews of the work that they do. It's really, really, really good. And they just work fantastic world building, level design magic. Then we'll bring that map back in-house, and we'll do things like, in Quake days, you saw it clipping. We'll do a lot of collision checks and things like that. Like Brian Goodsill will go here and make sure all the things are kind of clean, so you're not getting hung up on little pieces of geometry. Then we'll put all the gameplay in, and Steve will put it in. It's just like a whole manufacturing process. And we do it so many times. Anyone that's worked in Unreal 3 especially, it takes like 4, 5, 6 people to get a map built in modern day. In the old days when I was doing that stuff, it's like one guy. So you just need a bunch of textures and just go, right? But nowadays, it takes a lot of people to do it. And the final result is real art, and it's fantastic. And this map especially is one of my favorites that we've done this year. It's really cool.
Yeah, so we're launching this Crumble Bulwark
Tuesday
map, next week on Tuesday with the Dark Altar update, and that includes a couple of different things that we'll be covering over the Devstream. I'm curious about how long from, Tuesday is the day it comes out, how long from sort of that, how long does it take to really brew on things? How far back?
Steve does all this. Once the art's being done separately, and once the art's kind of good enough, like before all the clipping and the no collisions and the things like that are set in everywhere, Steve will already start trying out some of the gameplay. He'll mess around, throw some stuff out there, see what sticks. We'll play it. We'll play it here internally on a hidden secret build and all this kind of stuff that's on Steam. And we'll talk about it and do roundtable feedback in the office. It's actually kind of fun because you get like 10, 15 people in the office to play it. You'd be surprised, just because everyone here works on Dungeon Defenders, half the people suck at Dungeon Defenders. So it's a good way to have people that suck and people who are really good and people who are really picky, and QA guys are real sharp. So we get feedback from all different perspectives. And as a developer, we also you have to project yourself into the eyes of a regular player who's either hardcore or casual. So did they understand it? Was it too hard for them? And we'll spend a lot of time iterating. We call it iteration, basically. And then Steve will go back and add some neat ideas. He's always trying to make stuff better, which is really cool. Him and I will bounce ideas back and forth. Dan Haddad, the other guys, are kind of cranking on the Mystic. So Steve's been championing this one by himself the whole time. And I've been focused on the campaign revamp stuff and all high-level direction for the long-term plan for the rest of the year and stuff. But that's kind of how it takes. A map like this, it probably takes maybe 2 weeks to get all the art done from scratch. Maybe light it in a couple of days. Maybe do all the clipping and stuff like that in about a day or so. Then it takes gameplay iteration for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out a week, and then it gets tight and done. And then you kind of set it aside and go back and pull it out of the drawer again and go, oh man, this one part stinks, I gotta fix this. And then you go fix it again. It's kind of like writing a book. It's a couple drafts, you know. And then you get to a final stage where you're really picky. You're going there and like touching everything, trying to rub up against every piece of geometry. You're trying to make things break. You're doing weird stuff like trying to pull guys off to the edge and fly away with the gun winch to make sure it works right. And that's where you have to like try to break it. And QA helps us with that too. I do a lot of that. I'm awesome at breaking crap in Unreal. I know how to do that really quickly. So, and because we want it to be solid, you know, we don't want it to be half baked or anything. So yeah, it's a pretty fun process. A lot of people are involved, and everyone's creative ideas gets a chance in it. It's really fun.
One thing I forgot is that we are doing a giveaway again. We're trying to avoid Twitch chat spam, so Alandrian or
I'll start spamming
Trendy
immediately now.
Alandrian or Trendy will tell you sort of details on how the new contest is going. No, there's a lot of new changes on the Devstream, so we're always looking forward to your feedback on it. We're kind of changing it to try some new things and for you. But you mentioned QA and newbies. I want to force
Sure.
Eric to talk a little bit here. Eric is the guy who's playing right now. We're kind of looking around the map, and I've heard from all the QA guys that this versus Ramparts really does change things versus that other map. So Eric, the voice from behind the camera, tell us a little bit about the differences on this map versus the DD1 Ramparts that you remember for our more expert players.
So two of the things that people will remember from original Ramparts were the walkways that were here that you always fell off of. And the fact that there was a hole right here that every time you tried to jump up you would fall into. Those are the two major things that kind of are gone. You're not going to really fall as much through this pit. And then the one last thing that I'm sure everyone noticed immediately is the roof is gone.
Yay. Here in Florida, we are anti-roof.
We are anti-roof. Our
yeah.
schools don't have roofs.
Yeah, it's like a village.
Eric, one last question. How does it make it harder? Because I remember hearing explicitly from you guys that it made it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging versus Ramparts on DD1.
A lot of it is the line of sight based. So because this roof isn't here or because those hallways down there are gone, the line of sight that you use isn't as easy to manipulate in DD2 as it was in DD1.
Okay. See, that wasn't so hard, Eric. You could talk a little bit on the stream. We're going to go from DD1 vet to DD1 noob here. Chris, you
Commence
played,
hazing. Yeah.
you played the Incursion a little bit, which we're going to get into, but I'm just curious to get your take on the map and how you feel about it. What's your favorite moments and how you liking it?
Yeah, so the first thing I noticed about the Incursion is, it was on Nightmare 1, so my noob status basically entails I beat the campaign, and then I was like, yeah, I've mastered this, I understand nothing, pretty much nothing. So yeah, so I dived in the map. I played the previous Incursion as well, and something I noticed about it is even as a noob, you can just run in and you can DPS your way through a lot of the problems that we've had in previous maps. The thing about this Incursion that makes it special is there's nothing, or at least initially, that you can do about these assassins. They're going to come and they're going to hit you like a truck and you're going to die. And so you have to do a little bit of special stuff to actually deal with them. You can't just burst them down or have like a crazy poison dart tower build that obliterates them in a half second. So it was kind of nice. I'm a bit of a WoW player, so I kind of like the fact that it took me more than one try to beat this map. You have to kind of learn.
Did your raid leader yell at you?
Yeah. Well, it was me, Gennaro, and Brian Goodsell. So I was the closest thing we had to a raid leader, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, so we're just gonna.
That's how it
usually
works.
Yeah. So I googled something, and this Incursion doesn't exist yet, so nothing came up. Yeah, but basically, it was a lot of fun. I like the fact that there's more than just DPSing things, because as a noob, if I can beat a map that's supposed to be a challenge by just auto attacking really nice, I feel like there's got to be a higher skill cap. Like someone like Eric can blow through this thing, and for me it's still a challenge. So I like it.
I wonder if people know. Are you going to play the Incursion later?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So
what are you talking about? It's just a map you're just running around.
We are actually going to do that right now.
All right,
So
cool.
speak of the devil, we're going to let Chris go, and he's going to actually join Eric's game. So we have a bit of a newbie and a bit of a veteran trying to tackle this Incursion live. And then you and I are going to be kind of talking through some things as they're trying to play the Incursion.
While they're dying horribly.
While they're dying horrible deaths. So to be clear, if they die, it's probably Chris's fault.
No, it's Steve Collins.
Let's blame him. Yeah. Like,
Wait, Steve. He's not even here.
So one of the big features of this new map, this new incursion, which we're calling the Altar of Athami?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Not acne.
Not acne.
Definitely not the altar of acne.
The Altar of Athami is these. They're not dark assassins; they're altar assassins.
Yeah.
And Elandrian wanted me to make that very clear that these are altar assassins. They kind of act sort of differently. So tell me a little bit about the backstory of.
Oh gosh, I'll try to be short with it. The idea is that enemy you've seen in probably the promotional videos, you're going to see these guys encounter a lot of them here in a minute. This place is to become like their headquarters, and they had this ritual that they did that turned them into like ethereal, not dead like a ghost, but have the same kind of traits as that. So they're immune to damage. And so when the players come in there and get in the arena and start jumping around, they start coming after you. They start coming out of nowhere like you're desecrating the area.
Okay.
You can't kill them. And they hit really, really, really hard. But they move slowly. So if you can keep your eye on them, it's like a school of slow-moving fish will just start closing in on you. And so you're keeping them at bay while you've got defenses set up to defend the two different the crystal cards that you got going there. So you're playing the regular Dungeon Defenders game. You get this really aggressive enemies coming after you. They're very nasty. And the only way to stop them is to use their own magic kind of against them. They turned into these ethereal guys with this big altar, this big ceremony. So if you go and bring the right things to that altar, in this case, there's these dark prophet war boars. Okay. If you bring a certain number of right things to that altar, then you and your friends can jump on the altar and activate it, and you'll kind of like transform into their realm. It's kind of like Frodo with the ring going into the world of the Nazgul. So you enter into their ethereal world, and there'll be the statues around you. One of them will have like a ghostly figure on it. You need the DPS and burn that tower down in like 10 seconds. I mean, you got to be ready for it, because those other guys could be coming in trying to destroy you at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you got a bunch of them, if you've got those guys on top of you, on top of the altar, and that's happening, you're just going to die. So if you can do that, if you can get to that point and you get that thing burned down, then they are able to be damaged by you. You can just destroy them. And once you've done that, that ends the wave. So if you don't do those things, it's kind of tricky because you don't know where the dark prophets are going to come from. Kind of like one of the other incursions, you're trying to find things to get rocks to open a catapult. We kind of like that idea of not knowing where the stuff's going to come from. So you have to do that, and then you got to take it to the altar. And we actually want to try to put a little group mechanic in here. You need to communicate with other people. Like if one person just activates the altar, it's probably not going to do well. It's just going to keep going and going and going. And other people are like, oh, wait for me. And then, but it's hard to do that because all the dark assassin type, old assassins are following you, and they're aggroing on people, and they only aggro on heroes. They're not going after your core.
I remember reading that in the devlog. They go after the core, they don't go after your
in the
defenses.
beginning, we tried them and going after the core. It was just dumb. It was much scarier and more exciting knowing that everywhere one of us moves, a bunch of these jokers are chasing us down relentlessly. And so you can do some tricks. You can do all kinds. There's a bell and all kinds of neat stuff you can do to mess with them. You read the devlog. I gave you kind of some tips on how to play it.
A little tip. Yeah, definitely check out the devlog. And when Ellie referenced the devlog, we're talking about
on our website,
DungeonDefenders.com. We post devlog updates there about midweek. And the last couple have been written by Elliot. They really are sort of some extra information.
Yeah, just insider look type stuff for fun. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, the best way you can just go in there and try it, and you probably fail horribly. You can probably disseminate how to win it and go in there and still execute wrong, because you don't know where these guys are going to be, and they're going to change their behavior based upon where everyone else is running around doing. Like if one guy's taking care of one area or destroying stuff in one area, or one huntress is over here, that huntress may have to start moving around in a weird way to keep these guys off of her or whatever. It means that it could just be a mess really, really quickly. And it's actually fun because it gets so hairy and crazy. You start thinking of ways you can move differently and where you can be. Like get guys closer to you and kite them over here, jump in your gun bridge and broom over the other side of the map, and then take care of that side of the map. Or someone's yelling to come to the altar, but don't do it yet because there's too much junk on the altar. You'll all get killed in one hit. So there's this level of quick, but not yet. So that thing's happening back and forth in your mind and drives you crazy. But when you do it right, it's like, that was easy.
I love that you mentioned Molten Citadel, because Molten Citadel maybe gave you 1 or 2 spinning plates to deal with. Yeah. This one gives you 3 or 4 or 5 spinning plates to deal with at once.
There's 2 big elements that make this hard. Other people are dumb. So other people are dumb makes it. If you play with some other guy, they're gonna mess it up, man. And you can tell them how to play. But when everyone does it together,
I'm right here. I'm the dumb one.
No, you're not. But that's what happens. Other people will just want to go and do what they always like to do, and you won't be as successful if you do that. But once you try to work together a little bit, it gets to be a lot of fun.
So you can't brute force this one.
You might be able to if you're a complete walking wave of destruction.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, but I mean, if you move really good, like you could have the whole altar cover with these bad guys, and you go to activate the altar. If you're really good at circle strafing, really quick, tight circles and moving out of range, you could probably pull it off, but it would take a lot.
So talk to me about that. There was some. I was reading it. I was reading the devlog. I was listening to the guys play the Incursion when they were beta testing. Mobility and awareness in this Incursion.
Yeah, because you're watching, you're taking care of the lanes, you're taking care of stuff happening to the crystals. You know you can't kill these assassins. So there's no reason to sit there and just look at them, right? So you're not looking at them, but they're chasing you. So every time you're moving, they're behind you. So you have to kind of like mentally keep track of. These guys are about that far in the rearview mirror. Turn around, take a quick look at them, snap around, look, see where they are. Make sure you're pulling them away from other people, because then once they aggro on someone, they kind of stick to you like glue. If you get far enough away, they'll go find the next person.
Got it.
So you could be fighting over here thinking everything's fine. This dumb hunter's just trained everything on top of you, which is like an EverQuest 1 disaster. And they don't one-shot you, but two. So you get a tap on the shoulder that says, wake the devil up, and then after that, you got to move and get out of there. And that's what makes it fun, is because you're constantly being forced to control the action.
Okay.
Playing the tower defense in of itself isn't necessarily the most difficult thing in the world. It's just kind of laid back fun. But this is making you try to really control your character, what you're doing, and in relation to what other people are doing. And that's where it gets fun.
Okay. You tell me a little bit about collaboration in this map. Let's do collaboration and fast decision making, because there are two things you talk about: DPS and collaborating on DPS. That you can't just sort of like go at it. You can brute force if you're walking nightmare, but if you're working with other people or playing with a dumb person, how does that work out?
Yeah, I mean, as always, any DD map, you got to set up your defenses, whatever. We all know that. Like, if you don't have barricades, you're going to have trouble and this kind of stuff. But, like, someone spots a Dark Prophet, like that right there. If someone can tell everyone else they spotted one, then everyone keep track in their mind, like, how many do we have, and can the guy get over to the altar to deliver it to the altar? Because once you put the things on the altar, it doesn't turn on the event. You got to then interact with the altar, too. That gives you a chance to pull the trigger when you're ready. So if no one says anything, or no one's not using voice over IP or anything like that, and you're playing with 3 other people, some random dude might go up there and just put the altars on the things on the altar and press the history eraser button, and boom, you're like way on the other side of the map, and he didn't burn down the tower, and now it keeps going. And so it's one of those things, like, if you don't have this ridiculous, embarrassing level of failure, your awesome success isn't as cool. So that's why we wanted to do it this way.
Okay. So VoIP recommended.
Yeah. Or have someone you can talk to over whatever program you like to use.
Okay. What else do I want to ask you? You covered a lot of that. One of the last questions I asked you about just the Incursion. You referenced a WoW raids in your devlog, and you mentioned EverQuest here as well. Tell me some of the design inspiration for sort of an Incursion like this that's completely different from a lot of the Incursions that you put out there.
It's funny because the Dungeon Adventure stuff we do here is really just our own. But there are subtle elements of every game we've ever played ever that we know what those little feelings are in certain types of situations. A little touch of Ragnaros, the big guy in WoW, because it looks that way, but isn't really anything like Ragnar's fight in WoW. We're not WoW fanboys. Yeah. We play tons of stuff, shooters, all kinds of stuff. So it's great to all those game designers have a really good language, a vocabulary built on all the awesome games they've played. And so when we talk about stuff, we're saying things like I just said there, like, oh, this is like this and this is like this. Because we know that when I mention that, what Wild West films are, spaghetti westerns, you know what you're talking about. Yeah. So we just talk that way all the time. It's easier to communicate amongst ourselves. It confuses programmers. They don't know what we're doing.
So this is Elliot. I'm Benny. We've been talking about the Dark Altar update, which includes the Crumbo Bulwark map and the altar of Athami Incursion, along with a new enemy that you're seeing right there, the Altar Assassin, who's just one of my favorite.
He's just in this Incursion.
One of my favorite sort of designs, I think, in all of Etheria is this Altar Assassin, available on Tuesday. We actually have a new challenge that's coming out. A new community challenge that we're putting out there when this Incursion launches. So we're calling it the Altar of Athami Don't Die Challenge, the DD like Challenge, that? Double D Challenge. So the Double D Challenge is going to be for the next couple weeks. And in this challenge, what we're trying to do is no dying, you can't use EV, and limited towers. So the Squire can only
use EV.
We're trying to get them. It's supposed to be a challenge. You can't use EV, limited towers, Squire only the training dummy, Apprentice only the barricade.
Oh, like real picky rules.
Only the Serenity.
Just like the last one you did.
Abyss Lord only Colossus, and Lavamancer only Oil Geyser. So again, Squire only training dummy. Apprentice only barricade, monk only serenity, or Abyss Lord only Colossus, and Lavamancer only Oil Geyser. We'll probably put a forum post about it.
I got an idea. We should make a button in the game that has the name of the challenge, and you just press it, and it won't let you use anything but that.
I like that.
That would be fun. We should do that.
Let's do that.
After we finish the game.
I will code it myself. I'll learn all of it. So shout out to the people who are taking the challenges. We're loving watching these videos. We're loving featuring you guys. We are working on sort of some participation prizes and prizes for the winners. So those are coming. Please continue to join the challenge and just tag your video with Double D challenge because it's the Don't Die challenge. Double D's, why not? What else we got? If you were locked in a dungeon, just a quick reminder of the updates that have been happening over the last couple weeks. We launched Lavamancer a month ago. Lavamancer a month ago. So that hero is out there and available for you guys. Also, just so you guys know, there is a 3x metal weekend this weekend. So if you haven't gotten Lavamancer yet, you can put yourself over the brink for the 3x metal weekend. And then last update was more community-focused updates. We've been listening to you guys, and we tried to add some fixes in there, and we also had the Hunt Witch costume that we had 2 weeks ago. Tuesday, which is 3 days, 4 days, 5 days? 13th. Tuesday the 13th, this update that you're seeing right now, the Dark Altar update, will be launched, and you'll just have to log in and play it. What else we got for you? So we got a little bit of dungeon keeping updates, just some quick things that you might have missed if you haven't been paying attention. As we've been talking about this whole time, Elliot is all about the devlog. So if you visit DungeonDefenders.com, you're going to see our devlog update. There's a lot of information in there on top of Elliot's sort of little mini almost strategy guide, if you will.
Yeah, I don't usually do that stuff. I thought I'd just give people like, here's what happened to us when we played it. You know,
I like your writing.
An inside peek.
Yeah, a little inside peek at the
just humorously, not be serious.
But there's also some updates about the PS4 because we had a lot of action on the PS4 going on there. What else? And then the other thing that I want to make sure that we point out is we did reach the Steam group membership limit, or not membership limit, we reached the goal that we had.
Yeah.
So the Galactic Weapons, they are now officially out there, so you should be able to have access to those. Next thing to notice is we've got our social properties out there, so hashtag Etheria Tours. If you join us on Instagram, which is at TrendyEnt, I've been sort of taking pictures around the world and doing some things. And last but not least, our giveaways. We have tons of giveaways every week. There's a giveaway on the stream right now, so there should be a link in the chat. If you haven't been looking at it, check it out, and you could win. I don't even know what we're giving away today, but we always give away costumes or heroes and stuff like that. There's also giveaways on Twitter. There's giveaways on Facebook. There's Steam group membership giveaways, which you have to come up with new ones because you guys reached our 250,000. And again, the Metal Weekend. So we're trying to give as much away as possible. You're shaking your head, Eric?
He's dying on purpose.
Because you're losing.
He's just wipe it up.
Stick around with us, Haddad. Why don't you come over here? Actually, Haddad off screen because I don't want to ruin the surprise. We got some questions from the community before we move on to a very special second half.
Why don't you bring Dan in? Let him come sit here.
We have some special things going on. We'll let him talk for right now.
Okay.
Is there any quick fix plan for balancing the game? It's a bit boring to see Proton Beam and Poison Dart used to dominate the meta so hard. That's asked by Sombrero.
A talking sombrero.
Asked that.
Sure. We know balance is an issue, and I've been kind of talking about that a while with the devlog. We've been doing a lot of investigations on that. We have a better idea on how we want to approach it. It's a matter of time when we actually get around to doing it. Like you've seen in some of our smaller updates already, we're picking like a handful of towers and updating them and repairing them, doing things towards them. We have a bigger idea in mind, small prototypes along the way. What we'll likely do with those, since they'll be larger and more sweeping, we'll do like a PTR for our remote group. So if you guys want to get in on that and play it, you'll be able to. But yeah, just hang tight a little bit longer and we'll be able to deliver that to you guys sooner.
Ooh, I'm seeing some.
Always fixing stuff.
I'm seeing some questions on the Twitch feed. To make the challenge a bit clearer, it's Don't Die on the newest Incursion, which is launching on Tuesday. We'll have some forum posts about it as well. We have some specific towers that we want you to use. Basically, don't die on the Incursion is the
and
challenge.
No clapping.
And clap a lot. Second question from USMCG Huron. Is there a plan to overhaul or extend the inventory management options we currently have?
We are working or tweaking the inventory. I know Josh Java, you guys have seen him a few times on the stream. He has some really cool plans for the inventory. So yeah, there's some work being done for the inventory.
Cool. Hom Shabam, Hum Shaboom. asks, will you ever add Betsy, Mathalius, Harbinger, or Onslaught weapons for the 4 new heroes?
Maybe. We're trying to focus on delivering the 4 heroes and whatever new heroes we're working on first, and then figure out what we want to do with passives and those systems before actually adding a few more layers on top of that.
And we try to do incursion weapons for those characters too, those heroes too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like they're getting nothing, but not tied to that map, because remember the campaign revamp is all being changed. So
Yeah.
Zimmerman asks, Sky Guard towers are bugged, only firing 1 shot at a time. Fix or ignore. Generally, ignore is not our way of doing things, by the way, guys.
Fix everything broken.
We'll look into that.
Yeah.
Skyguard and Lightning Orb, we know there are some issues with those too, so we also want to take a look at those. We wanted to do it for this Tuesday, but we kind of ran out of time.
Speaking of things that might cause bugs, Vagnar asks, have you considered unlocking costume restrictions and allowing us to mix and match pieces
I can
across
answer
the
that
sets
one.
we own?
Yeah, I can answer that one. We talked about that when they first created the costumes. The way that the characters, the geometry is split up, it doesn't really lend itself to making cool-looking, interesting combinations. It just be kind of like goofball mode.
Okay.
As opposed to a game like Terra, which is a really awesome game, which I play as well. Terra is kind of designed from the ground up to have crazy goggles and backpacks and all this kind of craziness going on. But we did talk about doing a really awesome dyeing system that we think we can do. So you could actually dye existing costumes so that the different pieces you have,
okay.
well, like three different types of dyeing locations, like black and stuff like that or whatever. So you could take a costume that doesn't really look that cool to you now and then pick some of the offshoot kind of pieces, like the different part for the chest or for the head or whatever, and dye it different colors. And we thought that'd be a cool baby way to give you more customization.
Okay.
Because right now, if someone has a costume and the other dude has a costume, you all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And that's not really ideal. You want everyone to kind of stand out. So,
Okay.
but the method of mixing, matching costumes in of itself isn't something I think we will do anytime soon. We could do it. It would take a massive amount of time. And plus, a lot of those character costumes, they have special rigs and special visual effects and stuff. So they're very put together in a way to be kind of like, this is the composition. When you start taking one thing off of one and putting on the other, becomes like a matrix nightmare of mixing and matching mess. And so, but I think the dyeing thing is something that we want to do, and we investigated about a month and a half ago and figured out a way to do it, and I think we'll probably do that.
Okay.
So at least that'll be something cool, better than nothing.
I just found out that the giveaway that we are giving away is the Lavamancer. I think we actually
that's
have
right.
one or two things going on here. One of my favorite questions, Charlegian asks, what game modes would each of you on the Devstream, this includes you, Eric, like to see added to the game? I'll go first with my weirdo one. Because I am the Instagram fanatic, I want to see like a Pokemon Snap style, like tourist with a camera just going around the maps. I think, downloading the game, a couple months ago for the first time, I was really amazed at how beautiful it was. I know that there's all kinds of different things going on in the game, obviously more than beauty and design, but I'm just shocked at how wonderful it looks, and then for a free-to-play game particularly, but for any game. It looks like a freaking Pixar game. It's one of those things that we live in the future, so I want to see a Pokemon Snap photo mode with scoring and judgment and all kinds of things. That's what I want to see.
I do. I'm a PvP nut. I like to kill people.
Okay.
My wife and I like to kill people. We go home at night and we kill people. We be gangbang dudes in the internet game. Especially WoW. We're big PvP players, Warhammer, all that shit. It's part of my language. But for me, I've always wanted to do something where one team of 8 versus another team of 8 defend a keep and then take turns defending the keep, because you have all these cool defenses that could work as defending the courtyard.
Yeah.
And one team has to siege and attack, and one team has to defend, and you can run around and blow each other up. And we'd fix all the abilities so the damage numbers would work. When they tried doing that in Diablo 3, it was a complete nightmare.
Okay.
Like the damage numbers didn't work and people were being one-shotted. But that would take a lot of work. So if we're talking about wishful thinking.
Yeah, wishful thinking.
That would be
Any
awesome.
game.
I'd love to have like a defense mode where we start adding guilds and things like that to the game, where 8 players could just wipe 8 players out with the same kind of gear you wear now, and you're gearing up for in the PvE stuff. I'd love to do that.
Okay,
Then you can kill people.
Voices off screen. Eric, what mode do you want?
Give me Tower Wars, please.
Tower Wars.
Tower Wars.
What's that, dude?
It's basically you have 2 different sides doing the same defense, and then you send units to the other side that give them mana. So you send units to gain mana on your side, and then they kill the units to gain mana on their side, and then
Okay, like a resource
survives
control.
longer.
Haddad, last but not least.
All right, gentlemanly jousting. And it's a mode where The heroes, they have mounts, or they build their own mounts, and they must joust in a gentlemanly way. It's the flip side to Elliot's.
Yeah, I like brutality.
Bloodthirsty brutality piece.
Modern day young people, they're just not very mean.
Right, I know. I'm talking photography.
They're also
like,
being
I would like to
violent,
kill
kill
people. Last question, and then we got a special new segment here. Mindless Defender. Mindless, so he has no minds. Will you ever make it so that we can hold down the left mouse button to snipe?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I read that one.
So
That's
we
a
don't
great.
have to
Yeah,
keep
that would be
clicking.
great because having a snipe stinks. There's this weird like internal cooldown happening when the animation plays, the projectile flies, and it's off timing with what you think in your head should happen. And so that's something we should definitely fix. Good job picking that
Okay,
one.
look at that. All right, we're
I
changing
agree with you,
things.
dude.
We're changing things live. Amazing. Cool. So that just to update you guys before we move on to the next thing, we got Crumble Board coming on Tuesday. We also are going to spend the second half of our dev stream doing something a little different. So Elliot, get out of here.
All right, see you later, dude.
And we're going to
Back to
set
work.
up a little bit for that. Let's see. You're gonna play a little thing. Come on, Dad. Oh, where's my bow tie?
Where's your
my
bow tie?
fancy tea table? Oh, that
I've
was
been
not a
wearing
lot of
this
time. That was
all
not a lot of
day.
time. I'm gonna play
No.
music.
This is what? Oh,
This is
our first time doing this.
our first time doing it.
So
Let me-
forgive the impromptu.
forgive the informal.
Oh, I didn't know we had that.
Yeah, this is
lovely.
this is tea time with Haddad, black tea with blacksmith. Hello, a fancier, more gentlemanly segment for our dev stream. So Haddad, you came up with this idea a couple weeks or months ago.
Yeah.
Tell me what tea time with Haddad or black tea with blacksmith is all about.
It was an idea that I guess didn't fully come from me. It kind of was riffed off with a bunch of people, and the idea was because a lot of our community is really interested in design, like our design decisions, or getting into design in the design industry, or just like talking about games in general.
Okay.
And we thought it might be a cool idea to dedicate a section to talking about design.
Yeah.
And so we came up with Black Tea with Blacksmith, or Tea Time with
Tea time with Haddad, black tea
or
with
whatever the
blacksmith.
final
the name-
name ends up
as
being.
long as it's gentlemanly and
Gentleman.
and we have I don't know, are umbrellas fancy? I feel like
I think they are.
it's peach. It's like
is.
peach. She's
It is.
fancy.
It's
I'm
rather
fancy. Cool. So I love this idea. I mean, the reason I'm here is because the reason I'm here is because I love games. I love game design. I'm curious about the business of game design, and just how to how it works, how all these things work. So this isn't going to be all the time. We might not even we might spin it off eventually, but we're going to try something a little bit new.
Yeah,
I'm
see how it goes.
going to ask you some questions. We got our tea and our mugs. So what sorts of things go into actually, the primary question is, why are we so fancy?
Why are we so fancy? I don't know. How did we come up with the fancy thing?
It's just fancy. We're gentlemanly. We're talking about game design.
That's where gentlemanly jousting also came from. I guess design is rather gentleman.
Okay. The first question,
First
which
question.
is, how'd you get into this?
Oh, that's a long one. But
Just a live one, because we might do an episode all about how to break in. But I'm just curious to give context of how long you've been working in game design, and how'd you get into it, and maybe a little what you do.
I've been doing this for about 5-6 years now, something like that. I was born on the other side of the planet, and coming here was actually going to be a little tricky. I was lucky that I got involved in a bunch of modding communities early on, and there was this really cool guy called Leo who made the mod for Oblivion.
Okay.
And I would ask him a bunch of questions, and he just kind of took me under his wing and
Over the internet.
yeah, over the
So
internet.
from modding community and stuff
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, and I learned a lot by doing that. I modded Oblivion for about 2 years while learning computer science. And shortly after that, a bunch of things happened. Did my own game, did my own things, and then ended up coming to Trendy. So that's kind of a very brief story. It was definitely thanks to Leo kind of participating and jumping in and helping me out and giving me the bits of advice, which kind of helped inspire this as well. Kind of the idea of a lot of people want to make games, they just don't know where to begin. So maybe one day we do like a question and answer or things like that.
Yeah. Again, we're hoping to get feedback on this. I don't think even you know this. I have a little backstory too, which is I'm the marketing intern or the marketing dude, which is not what I was expecting to sort of be. But I will say, sort of my first job was actually working on Nintendo's advertising. And so the reason I say that is because even if you aren't necessarily super into game design, there are still a lot of professionals and a lot of jobs around games that can really sort of be a way for you to get in.
Absolutely.
And that's what's been cool about this internship is that, like, yeah, I've worked on Nintendo advertising, but I've actually never worked on games before, on an actual game. And so this is my first time sort of seeing the development process, all that kind of stuff. So even though we're going to be focused on game design here, don't let that stop your dream.
Don't let this. I mean, I started off programming too. That was the beginning for me. So yeah, definitely, you can start off anywhere and end up anywhere. That's one of the cool things about the games as well.
The other interesting thing, and I might be sharing too much, but I'm 31. I know Landrian's a little bit older as well. So the other fun thing about the game industry is it seems like you can kind of reinvent yourself and start whenever you want to start.
Yeah.
I see Eric nodding his head quite a bit. So maybe a little bit inspirational on the fancy tea time table. Inspirational tea time. Okay.
You know the way you're wearing your bow tie? Every time I see it, I'm kind of expecting you to like rip your shirt off.
Oh, it's a little Chippendales thing. Yeah, I'm trying to wear it on the side over here for that. Okay, so one last general gaming question, and then we're going to talk about what we're talking about today. So what do you do? What do you do here? What's your job here?
Now I'm Trendy's design director, so it is kind of handling and spearheading the design vision for DD2, maintaining it, working with the design team, designing heroes, implementing heroes, working with the programming team, and obviously like taking on all these issues that you guys talk about, right? Balance. How do we fix balance? What's going on with balance? Why is it every time we think, that was one of the most recent things or most recent questions or things I realized, every time we think we do a balance fix, we release it, you guys say we didn't. And I'm like, why? What's going on there? And kind of like diving under the hood and trying to figure out what's going on, and a lot of investigations like that. It involves a lot of like creative problem solving. It involves a lot of people skills because you're working with the entire team, and a lot of math skills too, and things along those lines.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed, you're a design director, I'm marketing intern, but the funny part about particularly working at a small indie studio is like everybody does a lot of different things. You're always kind of trying to switch roles and asking different people different questions, and that's kind of a big change, it's a big shift, independent versus, big publisher kind of thing.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that is I think a lot of times expectations of us are still the same, which I get from the gamer community, but we are a small independent studio in,
You kind of have to think on your feet really quickly in a smaller studio. You have your job and then you have everything else on top of it. And you have to just be quick. If you notice something, for example, like you're not pigeonholed into a very specific thing. If someone notices something, it's on you to like either figure out who needs to fix it or flag it to somebody or go talk to people to get it fixed. You don't like just see a problem and be like, someone else will go and find it, because poor Eric is awfully busy.
Eric is very busy. So EV2 on sale.
EV2 is
on sale, and so what we're talking about today is the design of EV2 and what went into that. So what actually goes into making a new hero? And think about sort of the process with EV2 as your guide.
Heroes are kind of interesting. We try to approach heroes in like one of three ways. It either starts with a mechanical idea, like we really want to try this idea, like for example, your weapon transforming or something like that. And that kind of is at the core, and we kind of build a hero around it. Sometimes it's the flip side of that, which is like the fantasy, like, we really want a volcano hero, and what the hell does that mean? And we kind of build a hero around that. So a good example, I guess, of a mechanical hero might be, maybe the Man Machine, the upcoming Man Machine might be that.
Upcoming what?
Man Machine, at some point. We're not sure when he comes out yet, but they already voted on him, so they know what he's about. We thought, what would it be like to pilot mechs? So.
Okay. So it literally starts that with that curious. Like I wonder what it would be like to pilot a mech. I wonder what a volcano hero would be like. Okay.
And the aesthetic side of it would be, volcano hero. How does that work? What does it feel like to be a character who embodies a volcano? And the best one, or like the most interesting one, is when they both combine together.
Okay.
And that's when you get something like the Abyss Lord, where I had the idea for a while, and we prototyped it early on, where you're directly commanding a defense, and we're like, oh, okay, that's pretty neat. Now and then we had this idea of this like warden who traps enemy souls or whatever, and then commands them to do things, and then both of them came together really well and kind of build it off of that. EV2 is a little interesting because
we had EV1.
Because we had EV1.
Yeah.
So we had a good base to start on, and whenever we have a
I'm gonna pause you. EV1, by the way, if you don't know, because it makes a lot of sense, from DD1.
From DD1, yeah. And she has a cool story. That's kind of one of the things I like the most about Evie. She was this character who was built, like assembled character.
Okay.
And DD2 is about everyone growing up.
Okay.
And so immediately I thought, it would be really cool if, everyone grew up and she didn't, and then what happened to her?
Oh,
so that's
okay.
that's what it started. And in the small like lore thing that I wrote for her early on to like get the inspiration going, we talked about over the years her chassis started getting worse and worse and worse,
Okay.
and fell apart, and eventually she couldn't fight anymore, and then she disappeared to like figure out to find where she was built, and then she comes back in this super cool
I
mech.
don't know if you can see that. That's what she
you
used to
can
look
see
like.
This is old EV1.
That's what she used to look like. You
Yep.
can Google EV1 Dungeon
EV1
Defenders.
Dungeon
She
Defenders.
looks a little bit different.
Absolutely. So yeah, and then from that, obviously we looked at, since she's a DD1 hero, or a remake, DD1 remake, we look at what are the things that people like the most about her, right?
Okay.
So
So we're literally reading forums. We're literally sort of
Reading
talking
forums.
to each other.
talking to people. When we were working on the Abyss Lord, we talked to Elandrian actually. I'm pretty sure I talked to Elandrian.
Which is an interesting story, right? Because Elandrian started off streaming. We started then talking to him, and then
Yeah,
now he's a freaking
yeah.
producer here.
I went to Josh. I'm like, Josh, I need who's a really good summoner player who played the summoner a lot. We want to do a hero that's kind of like the summoner, and I want to talk to them about what they liked about him. He's like, talk to this dude Elandrian. I was like, oh, all right.
I love that. I love that it's like Haddad to Josh to Elandrian, and
Yeah.
back. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
We talked to a bunch, but anyway, back to EV2. Once we looked at the things that people liked the most about it, and what people didn't like too, because we don't want to, if something didn't work out well, we don't want to repeat it.
Okay.
Then we try to find the central theme, right? We wrote at that point we had the idea like her thematic thing. Everyone grew up. She didn't. She felt left out. Her chassis was getting all busted. She finds her where she was built, and returns this super cool upgraded mech. And we wanted it all to be about her gun, right?
Okay.
We generally like simple themes. If you're in an elevator with someone for 5 seconds, how do you describe Evie? She's a mech with a transforming gun, and you're like, oh, okay, everything kind of comes.
So
from
literally that simple. Mech with transforming gun.
Yeah, or warden that commands like prisoners or things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we started building the kit around her, around that idea, that gun piece.
So what did you want to do in bringing her back? What tell us a little bit about the tweaks that you made, or the things that dropped off on EV1 that didn't work, or the things that you wanted to test out or try on EV2.
On EV2, something that we wanted to try out was the idea of pickup defenses, and the idea that there's this defense, it's doing something, and then every once in a while you can go and interact with it. Not like the Abyss Lord where you like command it to do something, but it gives you something, and then you become like this power vessel, and then you go activate it somewhere else. So we knew we wanted to try that with her. She had the one of her most iconic things was the node defenses in DD1, so we definitely wanted to bring those back. So we started off there. Obviously her node defenses, we kept the proton somewhat unchanged. The functionality of it changed a little bit, got a little bit more interesting. We didn't want to give her a blockade because we felt like a lot of people had blockades.
Okay.
We didn't really want to just add more blockades. As you can see with like the Lavamancer, and you'll see maybe in the future with a future hero, what we're trying to do with blockades, is give them more meaning. So like the Maw, turns things to the rocks and whatever and things like that. But yeah, so we started with those nodes and the idea of those pickups, and we looked at her abilities. And we really liked her beam, right? In DD1, her beam was super powerful. We wanted to keep that. We made it even more powerful, longer range. She has to hunker down to activate it, so it feels way more powerful. We liked the decoy because that was a cool gimmick, and everyone likes to fly, so giving her ability to like hover, jump up, fly, and shoot rain death from above was a cool idea.
Would you say this? Because I always wonder, is it like a linear thought, meaning EV2 jumps up and hovers, so that's cool. Let's translate that into another hero more fully Gunwitch. Does it follow that way, or
kinda? It's more like things that change your movement profile are fun.
Yeah.
Let's do that as much as we can with heroes in interesting ways that stays thematic. So EV2, She's a robot. She has jet boots.
Right.
Lavamancer digs into the ground and
Yeah.
like wiggles around like Bugs Bunny and then shoots up.
I've
Gunwitch.
played Lavamancer Chase, which is actually pretty funny.
Okay. And Gunwitch has her broom. She's a
Okay.
witch. Or gun broom.
Just because, I mean, and maybe I'm the dumb one here, which I usually am. I'm wearing a bow tie,
Okay.
but at least I look good and I'm done. When you're talking about these decisions, they literally start on a piece of paper or in a meeting. I
On a
don't.
piece of paper in a meeting. One day someone has it in the shower. A lot of times Josh Allison wakes me up at like 1 a.m. He's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I'm like, Josh, I'm trying to sleep. Go away.
I've seen some of those chats, and the only reason I asked that is because I think before I got into a real live development studio, I thought to myself, well, clearly there's some sort of like, programming lab that they go into, and like, but no, it's literally paper and pencil or Word documents, and it just starts with the lore, and then it kind of just goes through.
It doesn't always start with the lore, but it's a kind of a good thing to cement in, like because understanding the character will help animation, and that's something we can talk about for like probably a full episode about how to like guide how animation moves and what the character's like and things like that. But yeah, ideas can come from anywhere. It's not the ideas that are. Also good ideas might be hard to get, but also the thing that we focus a lot on is execution of those ideas. Something we're trying to get better and better at over time.
I remember Elliot was talking about the mod scene, and so like I guess the reason I bring up the paper and pencil thing is that like, look, if you love DD2 and you want to be a game designer, just start writing out pitches for heroes or things that you want to see, and like literally just type it up and share it around, post it on the forums, whatever.
See what people think.
Right.
And most important of all, because if someone's gonna read it, they're not really gonna know. Download something and try to build it, try to prototype it. If you have sometimes when I prototype things, I have thousands of magic cards. I just use magic cards to prototype like some game mechanic, or I open.
How do you do that? So how do you tell me a little sneak peek into prototyping.
Well, it varies depending on what you want to do. With heroes, you probably wouldn't want to use magic cards unless you're doing something.
A deck hero.
Yeah. But there was this idea for a small game that we were working on, and we prototyped it using magic cards, and just you'd have the rule books and whatever, and you'd have some friends come over, you'd use whatever you can to simulate the game rules, and you play and see. Was that fun? Was that interesting? Can you see it developing into a game? If it's a hero or a specific thing in a hero, just find an editor you're comfortable with, or if you're not comfortable with any, pick one and learn it.
Yeah.
And then build it. I really like the idea of shooting a projectile, then shooting the projectile that I shot and having it explode.
Yeah.
Okay, in any game you can do that. Download Unreal Engine and make a gun that does that. And see, is it fun? How does it work? And then iterate on that. Is it not fun? All right, why wasn't it fun? And then you tweak that design.
That's been one of the more surprising things, because I've prototyped and sort of made very simple games, but even very simple games, literally a prototype is all you need, and you can tell if it's fun or not.
Mm-hmm.
You yourself, it's your opinion, literally your opinion.
Yeah.
Is this fun? Is this not fun?
And don't get a bunch of people, have them play. And if it's not fun, don't be discouraged. Fun really happens at the last absolute second most of the time. So that's fairly common.
I feel like we should have quotes that fun happens at the absolute last second. One last question, because I think we started late, but I think we tried to wrap up around 6, 5, whatever. Were there any surprises with EV2, either making it or once you sort of launched her, that you were like, oh, people used it like that? Anything that you can think of?
Surprises.
Yeah, just anything. What is the most surprising thing about EV2?
I suppose the most surprising thing about EV2 is, I guess how she came together well, I would say. It's something we've been constantly trying to execute on, the idea that a hero is the sum of the parts rather than individual pieces.
Okay.
And EV2 was getting to that really good point, and I feel like we also did a really good job with the Lavamancer when we did that. So she just, her kit kind of made sense. And we were glad to see that the pickups were at least entertaining to use, and we need to figure out how to make them a little bit more effective. And also dropping mines and shooting them. Chris, our lead QA guy, would not stop talking about how much fun he had with those mines. So those were, I guess, three cool surprises about her.
Cool. So this was our first tea time with a Dodd, black tea with blacksmith. I'm sure that we'll figure out something official. Tell us how you felt about just a little bit of a chat, more about game design and fanciness, and me and my Chippendales bow tie. Yeah, yours is just a little bit better.
I've been wearing it all day trying to get used to it.
So this has been the Dungeon Defenders Devstream number 65. 65. Last time was 64. This is 65. That's how numbers work.
Barely passing.
The Dark Altar update comes out on Tuesday. It features Crumble Bulwark, the map. It features the altar of Anthony, however you say that word. It features new enemies, the Altar Assassin. It features a new drop. We didn't even talk about sort of the drop that we've got going on. It's a little mystic drop,
a mystical
little mystic drop that you can sort of figure out what to do with.
Yeah. We're trying that out, seeing if you guys would like to kind of farm a weapon for a hero that's not out yet, that's going to come out in a few
months. We'll see. Yeah, I'm curious. There's already been some feedback on the forums, I'm sure. 3 times Metal Weekend should be up. Lava Mentor giveaways are happening. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. All those social properties have opportunities for giveaways every week or every couple weeks. Next Friday is the Friday Fun Stream with Alandrian and Isom, and we'll try to answer any of the questions. Remember all the opportunities to engage with us, and thanks for tuning in and being fancy. Wait, before you stop it. Fancy. Fanciness.
Fancy.
Thank you. It's a really cheap umbrella.
Also rather orange.
Yeah, it's a gator. It's a gator umbrella.